I did a video last week on Yanni Gourde. I did a video on Yanni Gourde because he's an underdog story. Today, yesterday, the news of the passing of Johnny Bower came to light. Passed away of pneumonia, 93 years of age. Nice, long life lived. Johnny Bower's an interesting case, and I'm going to go through a couple things I found. And again, this is remembering that he was before my time. The time Johnny Bower retired, I wasn't even watching hockey at that point because I wasn't around at that point. So I'm going to get into what I can in terms of his place in hockey. He was one of the NHL 100. He's been in various books I looked at. He was either close to that 100 or maybe just outside. Top 50 goalies. He was in there, but where in there? And I think part of the problem with Bauer is he wasn't in his 20s when he became a famous goaltender. Dubbed the China Wall, Bauer toiled for several years in the minors before making his Leafs debut just 1 month shy of his 34th birthday. His 220 wins with Toronto placed him second behind Turk Broda on the franchise's all-time list. And that's the only comment I was able to find about Johnny Bower in this 100 Years of Hockey Glory book, which surprised me. I really had felt that there would probably be more. Now, in this one, Hockey History, there's a little bit more on Bauer, and it gets into some stuff. And it's nice because it's an article written in 1963, November 30th, 1963, by Jim Proudfoot. Jim Proudfoot was an author of many NHL books. I had them when I was a kid. A lot of what I learned about hockey when I was getting into hockey came from books of his that I read. And so it's nice to see an article in here from him. He wrote for the Hockey News quite a bit. Johnny Bower's day of decision arrived in 1958. He had just returned home to Cleveland, his hockey home, after a discouraging tryout for the New York Rangers, followed by sojourns in Vancouver and Providence. Now he's back in a city where he turned professional in 1945, where so many of his friends were located and where his good friend, the late Jim Hendy, was GM. Bauer was a comfortable, contented man when his outlook was reflected in his brilliant 1957-58 achievements. 8 shutouts and a 2.18 goals against average net minding in the American League. Amazing numbers for minor hockey. Poor goalkeeping was a major problem with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who had finished last in the National Hockey League that season. And, at the insistence of coach Billy Ray, they drafted Bauer for $15,000. At 33, he was quite happy to make his home in Cleveland and stay there. This acquisition by the Maple Leafs didn't produce the type of reaction you'd normally expect when a minor league player's secured by a major league club. I honestly didn't want to go, Bauer says. I was happy in Cleveland, and I wanted to stay there, but the draft rule was in effect then, and I actually had no choice. Besides, Mr. Hendy convinced me it was an excellent opportunity. He was right, too. Bauer estimates he's earned more than $50,000 above his anticipated AHL wages in the 5 seasons since he joined the Leafs. This is his 6th year with the Leafs. Moreover, he's gained glory and satisfaction beyond his wildest hopes. He's been first-string goalie for 2 World Championship clubs, as well as a first-place team. He's won a Vezina Trophy as hockey's foremost goaltender, and been chosen an All-Star as well. Above that, too, Bauer is perhaps the most popular player who plays for NHL pay. Teammate Dick Duff once explained that John symbolizes the type of guy who can't quite make the grade in the NHL, then did make it after it seemed to be too late. And he's been so grateful in everything he does that everybody's got a soft spot in their heart for him. Sentiment of that sort is never expressed in the Leafs dressing room. Bauer is the focal point of the team morale and good spirit, and this is developed by good-natured barbs mostly centered around subject of his age. According to the record book, Bauer celebrated his 39th birthday on November 8th. Some people claim this is sheer fiction. Reliable authorities have placed his age at 45, and even the team physician Dr. Jim Murray figures he's over 40. Bauer enjoys the controversy and feeds it, saying, "I've lied about my age so much I've forgotten what it actually is." Compounding the mystery is the fact Bauer served in the Canadian Army during World War II. He says he joined in 1942 and was posted in England. In 1945, coming out of junior hockey in Saskatchewan, he signed his first professional contract with Cleveland. Punch Imlach, Leafs GM and coach, has the proper attitude. When the jibes get thickest, he tells Bauer, I don't care how old you are, as long as you can stop the puck, you've got a job. And now we're at a stage where if you're 22 and you haven't made the NHL, well, you're probably a bust. Interesting thing to look at is his overall stats. And on the Wikipedia page, they list them. And it's interesting in that he played 592 games in the American Hockey League. He had 359 wins in the American Hockey League. He had 250 in the NHL in 552 games. He had 45 shutouts in the AHL, 37 in the NHL. Now, we get into this debate a lot. Greatest goalie of all time, who is it? Who is it? Johnny Bower's not going to get mentioned, but hey, there were 6 teams in the NHL. He didn't get his break till he was 33 or 34. He was putting up tremendous numbers, 55, 56. In Providence, he has 45 wins, 3 shutouts, and a 2.81 goals against. He then went 7-2 in the playoffs with a 2.56 goals against average. Now, this was a 6-team league. In a 31-team league, Bauer's in the NHL. How many more games does Bauer win? This is where it gets silly. People are going to look at Bauer's results and Bauer's stats, and they're going to say, well, he retired in 1970. He ended up with 500 games played, 250 wins, 195 losses, 90 ties. Yeah, he played well. Yeah, he was there for Stanley Cup runs. But really, how great was he would be a question asked by people who are not Leafs fans. My point is, if you add his totals together, he won 609 games between the American League and the NHL. This is before overtime. This is before shootouts. By today's standards, how many games would Bauer have won? Bauer's not the type to complain. Johnny Bauer was the inventor of the poke check. And nobody thought of that before. Guy's coming in. Bauer's thinking, hey, I could just poke the puck right off his stick. That would help, wouldn't it? Being a player who, let's see, where was his height? I believe he was 5'9". They had it in here. Yeah, 5'9" and 170 pounds. Wouldn't make the NHL now. But then again, neither would most of the NHL players who played back then, because they were all short. I personally am not in a position to discuss Johnny Bauer with the kind of affection and knowledge that Don Cherry will no doubt certainly bring across when he discusses the man. I don't have footage to show you from the archives. I don't have access to that information. I don't have access to that footage. All I can tell you is, if he had played now, we'd be talking about one of the greatest of all time. And it's silly. You go and you add 25 teams to a league, and a guy like this definitely would end up in it. So Johnny Bauer, if I had to pick a greatest Leafs goalie ever, it's hard to pick between him and Turk Broda because, again, they both predate me watching the game. But I can understand why people would vote for Johnny Bauer. A guy who was 33 before he became a regular goaltender. And you think about it, he made $50,000 extra in 5 years in the NHL than he would have made in the American Hockey League. American Hockey League where he was comfortable. City where he knew everybody. That's saying something. And he played for the love of the game. These are the stories we need more of. Great goaltender, great player. I'm glad he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And the best part is, he did make it into the NHL's 100 last year when they had their 100. So, good for him. And there you go. That's as much as I can talk about with Johnny Bauer, as he did predate my time. But if he didn't predate yours and you're watching this, let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.